Hello everyone. Today I'm going to just make a quick video on UDP socket programming because it's an interesting topic and well, you can learn something from it. So I'm going to just create a new folder. Let's call this UDP server, and let's select that. And so of course we'll need a client and we'll need a server. So let's call this client.py. Let's call this server.py. And with UDP, typically, here's our workflow. Essentially, we're going to make the socket. So I'm gonna write some pseudocode. Socket, and we're gonna put in UDP parameters. Then we're going to bind this to an address. So it's gonna be like sock.bind, some address, and to some port. So for me, I'm going to implement this on the loopback interface. And the loopback interface makes it so that you won't drop any packets. So that's pretty cool. And the loopback interface is at 127.0.0.1. Then with UDP, you have two methods. You have the receive from, and then this takes in the max message size, which for UDP on IPv4 is actually 65507 on IPv4. And this is composed of the size of the max IPv4 packet minus the IPv4 header and the UDP header. So yeah. And this is reading from the socket. So we are reading messages from the socket, if there are any messages in the socket. And the other method we'll be using is .send_to. I believe it's send_to. It might be something else. But this allows us to actually send the message to where it has to go. So send_to will take in the message, and then it'll take the server address, or the address of recipient and the port. Okay, so that is pretty good. Okay, so that's the workflow for the server. So we can actually start this now. So first, of course, we have to import the socket, and I'm going to make this a main function. And now I'm going to make the socket. So let's call that sock equals socket underscore inet. I believe this is telling it IPv4, but I'm not too sure. But this right here is important. This is telling it it's a datagram service. And as we know, UDP is a datagram service. In comparison to TCP, byte stream service. So now our server address is actually going to be a tuple, and I'm going to enter an empty string, and I'll bind it to port 20,000. The empty string, you could enter 127.0.0.7 if you want it to be on the loopback interface, or you can enter an empty string. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to bind this socket to the server address. I'm going to declare a variable as well. Let's call this max message size, and let's call that 65507. Okay, so now at this point, the server is listening on port 20,000. I'm going to print that out. Next thing I'm going to do is enter a while true, I'm going to try and receive from the client. So let's receive a message, and when you receive, you actually receive the message and the address it came from. So I'm going to run sock.receive from, and we're going to enter max message size. Okay. And I will actually make some print statement here saying if message equals, let's say, I don't know, exit. We can just sys.exit. I think I have to import this. Otherwise, I will send the same message back to the server or to the client. So we can do sock.send to message to the client. And I'm going to print out exiting. And this should be message decode because we get a datagram here, so it should be decode. Alright. And that's pretty much it for the client, or for the server. So I'm going to close this socket. And that's it. So now I'm going to put if name underscore equals underscore main. We can run our main function. You don't actually need this, but I think it's good. I'm going to just write a break here because it thinks this is unreachable code, but you know, it is unreachable code because we'll exit at this point, but it is what it is. Alright, now let's sample the client workflow. Whoops. The idea is the following. For the client, we're going to create the client socket, bind it to UDP, or this is a UDP socket rather, and now we're going to connect it to the, we don't actually have to establish any connection here because this UDP is connectionless. So we are just going to send messages directly to the client or to the server. So yeah, we're going to initialize some variable. Let's call it address equals, for us it will be like on the loopback interface. So 0.1 on 2000, 20,000 rather. And then we're just going to enter a while loop. We're going to ask the user for some input. Let's say input, enter a message. And then we're going to do like client sock send to, and then whatever we inputted to the address. And then we're going to actually listen for some message. And then we're going to print that. And then I'll just keep doing this until we exit. So if I'm going to actually add some line here, some line of code. If I enter a message saying exit, then I'm going to exit the client too. So let's do that now. I'm going to import socket. I'm going to import sys. And now we're going to have our def main. And here's our main function. I'm going to declare a maximum message size. And once again, that will be 655.07. And now I'm going to create the socket. So let's call this client sock equals socket af underscore inet, and then we're going to say it's a datagram. Now I'm going to bind this. Actually, you don't need to bind this, but I'm going to write the address. And I have this line here, so I'm just going to take that. And this is using the loopback interface. Okay, now I'm going to enter a while true. And my message will be stored in this input. And by the way, the input is a blocking system call. So until I enter a message, I can't send any message to the server from this client socket anyway. Enter a message. And then at some point I'm going to have if message equals exit return. Or you could even put sys.exit as I was doing before. And of course I'll put a break here so it doesn't give me any compiler error. Okay. Now over here I'm going to send it to the client or the server. So I'm going to encode the message and I'm going to send it to the address I had above. Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to, if it's not exit, I'm going to be listening. So let's call that response equals client sock dot receive from max underscore message size. And then I'm going to print out this response. And then we'll start the loop again. So over here, I'm just going to hit this, even though we'll never hit that. And that's it. So let me copy this line here, and we should be good to go. I mean, it's pretty simple code. So here's the idea. I'm now going to start our server. Oh, sorry, I made a typo, looks like. It should receive from, and I didn't do it there. Okay, cool. Now our server is listening, and now I'm going to start our client. And now I'm going to enter a message. So let's say hello. Let me see. I think I have an error. Oh, sorry. So of course we get an address as well. And so I'm assuming it's getting confused on this whole thing is a tuple. So let's start that again. So I think I forgot to print it on the server side. Yeah, so sorry about that. We should be printing the message. So let me restart that. I have to kill this terminal. Oops. Now our server is listening, and our client is listening. Now if I type hello, you can see it's printing out hello. So I mean, this is pretty much it. If I type exit, or maybe I'll type a little more lines. How are you, server? And of course, it's echoing it back to the client. Of course, I could just remove this line, and it won't actually be duplicating it here. But we're listening for. We want to make sure that we actually receive the message. So if I actually comment out this line, and rerun the code, we'll only see it once. in, and then we can exit. So we exit, and that's it. We're exiting. So that's just a pretty simple UDP Echo Client server implementation. Please let me know if you have any questions. Sorry about the little errors. But that's just what programming is, right? You make errors all the time. So please leave any questions in the comment section. And maybe I will do a TCP implementation